If there's anything in this world that I really, really love, it's fiery English mustard. I put it on everything. If I have a bacon sandwich, there's always a lovely spread of English mustard on it. Roast meat, pork pies, I even put it on potatoes. And like every motivational speaker or storyteller, I had a very, very peculiar day in that I was in a room with 100 people. And for the most part, the discussion was centered upon what variants of mustard we liked, whether that was Dijon, whole grain, or the fiery English variant that I love so well. We talked about what foods we like to have it in, and the future of mustard itself as a condiment. Although the day was tinged with sadness, in that there were 2 people there who didn't like English mustard. And I was completely overwhelmed with feelings of sadness that these 2 people would never feel the warm and loving embrace of fiery English mustard in their food. So I had to do something. I had to dive deep into my good nature and come up with a solution. And with very little conversation with the 2 people that didn't like mustard, and even less research, I coined the medical diagnosis of hating mustard disorder, or HMD for short. Coining a medical diagnosis simply was not good enough. I had to come up with a therapy or support program to allow these 2 people to come into the mustard way of life. So, I founded HMD therapy. And what HMD therapy is a compliance or rewards-based system wherein children can have a chocolate treat or time to take part in an activity that they enjoy if they have a loving spoonful of fiery English mustard in their food. And I can sense the bewilderment coming towards me as in, what on earth is he talking about? Of course, this is an anecdotal story about how people are unnecessarily pathologized in today's society. I'd like to tell the story of one little boy that this also happened to. So this amazing little boy, his favorite thing in the whole world to do, what really brought him joy as a small child, was to line up his toy cars on the windowsill of his parents' house. He didn't walk until he was almost 2 and didn't have as many words as the health visiting manual said that he should have had. From those early days, this wonderful boy had so many challenges from the way other people viewed him. So, what school would this wonderful little boy go to? What would be his education? Would it be a mainstream school or a special educational needs school? So an assessment was carried out with this wonderful boy. And the assessment was done with a consultant psychiatrist and an educational psychologist. And a report was generated from that day. And brace yourselves, because I'm going to read out an excerpt of that report. It says, "This little boy presents with aggressive features and difficulties with other children his age. Given the collateral history gained from the boy's mother and her daily management struggles, it would indicate that some autistic retardation is evident. Despite this, the boy displays literacy and numeracy typical of a child his age. There are some verbal sequencing issues that will hopefully resolve with support outside of a special education school." That little boy is me. And I've read out that letter and that excerpt many, many times, and it doesn't get any easier. Not for the autistic retardation statement, because back in 1995, that was language that was in common medical usage. The thing that strikes me most is that I didn't even have a name back then. I was just the boy. And my soulmate, my best friend, and the love of my life, my mother, Emer, is simply the boy's mother. So I went to mainstream school, I had a classroom assistant with me pretty much everywhere I went. I didn't always go to school every day, and I had more opportunities for individual work throughout the school day. And my earliest memory of school was standing in the playground, just holding my teacher's hand, looking at the chaos that was unfolding around me. There were kids kicking a ball around in this direction. There were kids chasing each other over here. Other kids playing hopscotch over there. And I just didn't really know where my place was within all of that. Teachers and classroom assistants, all through my education, always wanted what was best for me, and their hearts were always in the right place. However, whenever I used to line things up or stack things up, that was deemed as inappropriate play, whatever that is. And I was the one that had to change. I used to repeat things under my breath to learn to communicate that little bit more effectively, although that was deemed as a lack of communication skills. But yet I was the one who had to change. I didn't always like working in groups or sitting down on a seat for too long, and I was always deemed to have poor social skills. Again, whatever they are, and I was the one who had to change. Although with my schooling, it wasn't all bad. I did have some real hero teachers along the way. One of them, whenever I was 9, it was clear that I had a reading age that was more advanced than my biological years. And any time our class were reading a book together, I was always first to put up my hand and volunteer to read aloud to the rest of the class. And my teacher, Mr. Bradley, had the best idea in that he put me forward to be the narrator of our school play that year. And I remember standing on the stage and looking out into the audience and seeing my mum and dad's eyes just glazed over with tears of pride that their champion was on that stage showcasing what he was good at. That planted the seed for greatness. And without that experience, I probably wouldn't be on this hallowed red dot as I am now. I did have another hero teacher 2 years later, whenever I was 11. This was my final year of primary education. And we went to an outdoor activity centre in Garton in County Donegal. And we were split into 2 teams as a class. And the object of the day's activity was to build a raft, to take part in a race across a lake. So, we got down to building our raft. And then I approached my teacher and said, "Mr. Gill, can I build this raft myself? Everybody else is just getting in the way, and I think I would do a much better job if given the time and space to do so myself." And against the grain, my teacher actually agreed. He said, "You know what, fella? Go ahead. You build that raft." And my teacher took my classmates and now unemployed raft builders away to play another game and went off-site to let me build this raft. And let me tell you, my raft was a beauty. It was made out of barrels, logs, it was bound together with rope, and I even made a sail out of old plastic bags. So I dragged my creation down to the lake and got my sailors back on board, and the race rang out across the lake, and 20 seconds later, my binding came loose, my barrels started to separate, and my raft ultimately disintegrated with my raft, my sailors, and I scattered across the lake, whilst my team, the other team, sailed effortlessly to the other side. So, what is the main message of that story? Let me tell you, it's pick your battles. Children in time will inevitably learn life's key skills and tasks, not all at the same time, but at their own pace, which has to be supported by everyone. What I took from that experience was that in time, I would need to work as part of a team and even lean on others for support. So what are the main takeaways from this talk? The first one being, whether you're a parent or a teacher or a professional, you have the chance to be an autistic child's hero. Take it. We have passions, we have talents, and if they are nurtured at every cost, wonderful things will happen. All you need to do is look at almost every field of human endeavour. There has been an autistic person there and thereabouts. Through every single field. We have a wonderful team, and I always say that without us, the human race would probably still be living in caves and spearing fish. The second takeaway, is that people are naturally different. What we need is a model of acceptance and understanding. The current model, the way it stands, not just here where I live, but globally, is that there is so much money invested by governments in medicalized type programs that the main outcomes are treat, diagnose, cure. And it obviously doesn't work because the life expectancy for autistic people like me is only 36 to 54. So now, as a 30-year-old, it's coming to the stage where people like me die, on average. So something has to change. The amount of referrals, waiting lists for assessments, and everything else are only ever increasing, whilst on a separate graph, governmental funding for such projects and charities and causes are still increasing. Why on a global basis, for autistic people like me, are people pulling the same lever and expecting a different outcome? The model that we need is a model of acceptance and love, which is neurodiversity, wherein people are free to be who they are without fear of judgment. The third and final takeaway is, even if people don't like mustard or are not like you, be a champion for them too. Be an ally. Every day is a learning day for me, and I'll leave you with this from my literary soul brother Zarathustra, whenever he said, "I am a wanderer and a mountain climber," Zarathustra said to his heart. "It's clear that I don't like the plains, and it seems I can't sit still for very long. But no matter what life throws at me, as fate and experience will involve both wandering and mountain climbing." Thank you very much.